Boys, it's that time. Free agency is here. We're in the month of July, and we're here for our second summer of the show. And as you guys can tell by the title and the thumbnail, there's no all 30 team stuff today. We're just going to be highlighting a bunch of free agency, who's been the biggest winners and whatnot, what major deals have happened, and everything of that nature. So, boys, how we doing today? How you enjoying the NBA offseason so far?
It was good. Yesterday, the live stream was great. Today, it was more fun for me because my team did something.
Yeah, it's true.
And some other crazy stuff happened. We'll get into that later. But yesterday, it was nice. It's good to have news flying in during a live stream and just keep going off the dome.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, the live stream was fun. But today I'm in a bit of pain today, so bear with me, guys. I'm not in the greatest of moods or
No, Gio.
so.
You're like Scrooge today, my guy.
Yeah, I'm like Scrooge today.
He's a little grumpy, but you know what? It happens.
Yeah, I'm in pain. I have a toothache, basically. So
Yeah, so send your well wishes to Gio down in the comments. And but yeah, guys, obviously we cannot thank you all enough for the support on the live stream yesterday. It was just a lot of fun. We streamed for like almost 4 hours. It was insane. We saw a lot of like crazy things happen, and I think we might as well just transition into the G of the week, Gio.
yeah.
Who was the G of the week from this live stream yesterday?
It has to be Jack Anthony, probably.
I think it's gonna be Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Jack, man. He had some pretty funny comments yesterday in the stream. So
Yeah.
he's funny. He's a funny guy.
Shout out Jack. The hot takes
Yeah.
were insane, to
Yeah.
say the very least. And if you guys want to be a G of the week, Gio handpicks someone from the stream. So you got to be there. You got to be active in the chat. And,
Exactly.
you know, 1 week might be your lucky week. So obviously, if you guys enjoyed today's episode, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. Get us to 7,000 subscribers by the end of August. That's our goal before September starts. If you're on Spotify audio platforms, give us 5 stars, answer the polls, leave a review, all that good stuff, wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow our socials down in the description below. Our personal ones are on the screen at the bottom. Get Gio to 1 million Instagram followers. And we're obviously going to do our first 45 minutes to an hour of news. And in the second half of the show, we're going to be joined by a very special guest. So stay tuned. Or if you want to just arrow over to the time when we get to it, you can. But guys, do we have sort of anything to say before we sort of dive right in?
Let's rock.
Into the first segment we go, starting off on a very serious topic. This is the second season in a row we've had to deal with something like this. So, you know, it's not something we want to talk about, but it's a major story. We kind of have to. We have no choice. And here it is. On the screen right now, there's a tweet from Shams Charania that dropped like a week or two ago saying, breaking, the U.S. District Attorney's Office is investigating the Detroit Pistons guard Malik Beasley on allegations of gambling related to NBA games and prop bets, sources told ESPN. Serious developments surrounding one of the top NBA free agents. Now, I believe he was like days away from signing like a 3-year, $54 million contract extension with the Detroit Pistons after having one of, if not the best season of his career.
Man.
And now something like this happens, and it's crazy. We obviously had this with Jonte Porter last year. Jonte is a much worse player than Malik Beasley. Beasley's been in this league for a while, and now this. So, Antoine, what are your thoughts?
I mean, this was out of left field completely, to be honest, when Shams dropped a tweet. And it is very surprising. Malik Beasley's gone into some serious trouble in the past.
With what?
When he was on Minnesota or Denver, he didn't play for a full season. I think he was suspended.
Yeah.
He got into trouble, I think, with something. I don't know what it was. I could look it up.
Yeah. Be careful, though, because it might be something that we can't say.
I think it was...
Because, we don't want to get our video taken down if it's something like really
Oh,
sensitive.
here we go. 2021, he was suspended by the NBA for 12 games. He had a guilty plea for felony threats of violence and drug possession charges.
Okay.
I remember that, and he was really good. He was, I think, before the Timberwolves got like Butler and everybody else, Beasley was kind of like their like good like player, like role player, and then that happened. But some tweets came out recently from NBA Central. Apparently, it's has to do with a lot of things besides sports gambling. He's being sued by a sports agency he's employed for alleged breach of contract. He's failed to repay Hazon Sports in a full cash advance of $650,000 and they're seeking $2.5 million in damages and legal fees. Apparently, this is also another tweet came up saying that this is stretching to a lot of other things besides prop bets.
Wow.
He has like some debt he has to repay with like it's focused on wire fraud, gambling, and prop bets. He had a 3-year, $42 million deal ready from the Pistons that has now been rescinded, of course. And we were talking about Beasley in the middle of the season, like as the unsung hero for this team that came back from just a bunch of everything we just said. And I remember Bees was on the trade block from Detroit for like a hot second, and he ran into the office of trade landing and said, "Don't you dare trade me. I'm re-signing here. Like, this is where I'm going to be." Trajan abided, and they did pretty good in the playoffs. Of course, the first round exit was rough, but it was nonetheless a really good first playoff series for them. Malik was okay. He wasn't his best like he was in the season. But that led to this in the offseason. Just very unfortunate for a player like Malik. Love watching him. He's a great player. Very, very scrappy. Of course, against the Knicks, his defense was, great. Mm-hmm. I know people have been like finding videos online going back to like times where like we think he was betting on like score lines and stuff, like moments in games. I don't know how accurate that is because again, it's still an investigation. It's not been proven yet. But nonetheless, it is scary news for the NBA, scary news for the Pistons and the players that are all close with him. And again, it kind of brings up the same conversation of just what is going on with the agreements with the NBA and FanDuel, DraftKings. They market the crap out of every game with bets and same-game parlays that are on the screens, and the players find themselves in this trouble again. So it kind of leads to the conversation is like, do we need to pull this? Like, is this getting to a point now where we could see someone massive, more than Malik Beasley, get into the same type of trouble? And if this is good for the league, bad, but again, at the end of the day, this is my last segment, last yap before I pass it to Gio, but like, at the end of the day, these guys are grown men. You should know that your job is not entitling you to your job in the NBA. You know you're not supposed to bet. It's kind of like in that 101 of being a sports player, like and you're just an adult. You should know that you don't need to do this, and like you should be able to keep yourself from getting into trouble like this because you're an adult and you know what's going on. But
yeah. And also
sometimes
he's making enough money as an NBA player. Like, what else? Why do you need all that extra money?
He was in financial trouble.
He was. He's in debt.
He was in debt.
He's in debt.
Really?
Yeah. He's in debt. Yeah. He owes a lot of money.
And that's a problem internally. It could be from the off-the-court stuff. It could be from before. And that's a big problem. Like, when players get drafted into the association, there's a lot of courses and people you need to see and take of, how to stabilize your life. Because a lot of these people essentially are... a lot of people don't come up for anything, especially the players that are already in the league. There's no NIL. They got free rides to college, but they still didn't have money to begin with. And then you get this money, and you can't just spend it all on partying and everything of that nature. You just can't do that. So with Malik Beasley, it's more the sense of he mismanaged his assets, and he made some dumb decisions without those kind of assets. And now he's in this big hole. So, Gio, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
After Gio talks, we have breaking news.
We'll save that for the later because we have the free agency stuff afterwards.
But it's not free agency related. It's injury related.
All right, so we'll save it afterwards.
Save it for after this. Yeah. It's actually kind of crazy. Yeah. But go ahead, G.
Yeah. My first thoughts were, do you guys remember that play in Game 6 where Malik Beasley got the last touch on the wall? And
that was someone out. Do you
think that he purposely dropped that? Or because, like, how do you drop a ball, a perfect passed ball right here with a couple seconds to go where the Pistons supposed to lose that game? Is that why he dropped it?
Like, the allegations are stemming from last season, so 23-24.
Okay.
There's been no investigations and anything regarding this season.
Got it.
Yeah.
But still, to have one of the best shooters in the league, right? Because he was second in 3 points made this past season.
Yes.
Right behind Anthony Edwards. And he would have been first if Anthony Edwards didn't hit like 8 threes in one game or in the last game. Yeah. So, I don't know. The fact that one of your best shooters in the league is being investigated like this is really hurtful. And it's really hurtful, more so to his teammates, the people that trusted him most. I don't know. Look, we don't know if he's 100% guilty yet, right?
No,
but if this is the case, if the allegations are true, it's like how can you trust him anymore if you're a teammate of his? You know what I mean? Like the relationships that you build throughout the season, all to find out that your teammate was losing games on purpose, for an example, right? Like that definitely destroys relationships. What do you think about that, Tyler?
I'm kind of in agreement with you, and I think his lawyer had said something in retrospect of an investigation is not a charge. He has the same right to due process and everything of that nature. So we can't really assume. But once a story comes out and once people start digging and finding information and everything like that, and you see more things come out, you see the financial trouble, you see the videos of him scoring late in the game to cover the spread, you see him missing shots and doing things that seem really sketchy, right? You saw there was a play where he just let the whoever had the ball just go right by him. He didn't even move. So
yes, that was during the Pacers this
Yeah.
regular season this year.
so no, that was when he was on the Bucks last year.
Yeah, it was Hallie. Hallie went right by him.
Yeah, but this year he's on the Pistons.
Yeah, I know.
So
I thought it was on the Pistons. Never mind.
no, it was on the Bucks. So it's looking increasingly likely that he's going to wind up facing similar fate to Jonte Porter, which is essentially, permanent ban from the NBA. And like I said, the NBA just controls the NBA. This is the U.S. District Attorney's Office that's investigating Malik Beasley. He might wind up in prison if this all winds up being wire fraud and, if he's breaking the law. There's no two ways about it. He's breaking the U.S. law,
Right.
and
Allegedly,
yeah. So if that winds up being the case, it's really sad for someone that had the potential to be in this league for a lot longer.
Right.
So
Yeah, because the Jonte stuff was the NBA investigating because someone saw those bets show up on FanDuel so randomly.
yeah,
And this Beasley, it's the U.S. government's investigating him. It's not the NBA.
yeah. I mean, the NBA investigated Porter, but the U.S. Court system got involved, obviously, and he's facing jail time that I think his trial's like later this year.
For Jonte?
Yeah, I think it might be like August or September. I don't know exactly when,
Got it.
but he's in a lot of trouble, man. And
I know. It's crazy.
Who knows what stems from here? And this kind of screwed the Pistons over because like their whole plan was Malik Beasley, and now you're gonna have to settle for someone. And they wind up doing that. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, they did.
But now we're kind of in the situation where they should have traded him in February. Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate, man. There's nothing else you can do.
Well, yeah, I'm on the mindset that they have no idea about this because you're not telling the organization you are doing this or any type of wire fraud or debt. So like again, the Pistons did a maneuver. We'll talk about that later, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's just we'll have more information for sure once it does come down into what's going to happen. It's going to be. This is an ongoing situation. It'll be updated throughout the whole time in this podcast. So, this is just the first part. So again, we have to get to the middle, the conclusion, and then again after the conclusion, there might be some other things that come along.
Do you think that's why he told Trajan Lang not to trade him? Because if he got traded, maybe there's more background checks they would have to do, stuff like that. I wonder if that could be. This is just me speculating.
That is possible.
Like he could be innocent. We don't even know, but
Right.
based on like there's more at stake with him compared to the Terry Rozier situation. He just got cleared. I don't think he's getting cleared.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? This could be clearly on hearsay. We don't know exactly.
Right.
But
I think he's done.
Yeah, it's a scary thing for him. So he just needs to literally just say everything and just take whatever punishment they hand you. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. You got to learn from your mistakes and just bite the bullet. It's unfortunate that it happens to people like this that are, adults, have like full-on careers, making millions of dollars, and they find themselves in situations like this. It's just kind of, we see it all the time in the news when it comes to certain people. It depends, with celebrities, A-listers, they find themselves into a lot of debt sometimes because they do have a lot more expenses than we do as regular human beings sometimes. And bad decisions as well are a big part of this as well. But we wish the best for him, and hopefully he's, not too down on himself, just got to
I mean,
Go on with life.
if he's guilty, I don't wish the best for him. If he's,
Well,
if he's guilty, I hope he gets what he deserves.
Well, right now we don't know.
But
So
still,
right now,
I'm not gonna assume that he's innocent or guilty. He's under investigation.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm of the mindset that you better be innocent.
Right.
If not,
Exactly.
I'm slandering your ass for the rest of your life.
Dang.
But Gio, let me ask you real quick.
Yeah.
If he is found guilty, since he is a more known, better player than Jonte Porter, do you think Adam Silver gives him the same punishment, or do you think there's some leniency at stake here?
No, he definitely gets the same punishment.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime
It
ban.
has to
I
be.
think Adam Silver is gonna do a good job of handling the situation if he is found guilty. So I'm confident in that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, you got to set the precedent.
Yeah.
You know, because you go from Jonte to Malik Beasley, it's a clear jump. Someone
Right.
making a two-way contract to a mid-level exception.
Right, and it's not like he's like some superstar or anything like that.
No.
No.
So I'm pretty sure Adam Silver will be pretty decisive on this.
But we actually did mention this during the Jonte thing that, like, if someone's going to be next, it's going to be a better player.
We did say that.
And that's exactly
Well, how do you get
what-
worse than Jonte Porter? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it could have been. Trust me, there are worse. I mean, when Jonte was in the league last year, he was actually playing half decent.
He was alright.
So,
Yeah.
there's worse players, like
Yeah.
Thanasis.
There are a lot.
But-
A lot of
Thanasis is
two-way
goated,
guys.
bro. What are you
Thanasis
talking
is
about?
the GOAT.
A lot of two-way
To be fair.
guys.
But, I mean, Jonte was a two-way guy.
Yeah, well, exactly. Same caliber.
So, unlucky. But you said we had some breaking news?
Yeah, well,
Dude, it's an injury. It's not free agency. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
But it's from the Memphis Grizzlies PR department. And they have said, while participating in a live basketball runoff site, Jaren Jackson Jr., who just signed his Supermax yesterday, his max, not Supermax, sustained a turf toe injury in his right foot, which
Oy.
upon expert evaluation was determined to require a procedure to repair.
Yeah.
An updated preliminary timeline will be provided following the procedure, but Triple J is expected to make a full recovery.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys don't know what turf toe is, if I'm not mistaken, turf toe is basically a couple or a few torn ligaments in your big toe or any combination of the toes. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's painful.
yeah, that definitely is painful and debilitating
Yeah,
if
it
you're a
says
basketball player.
it says the sprain of the ligaments and joint capsule around the big toe joint,
Yeah.
often caused by forceful upward bending of the toe. Ouch!
Yep.
Ouch! Ouch!
Yeah.
Ouch! Ouch!
He's in pain.
Well, obviously, yeah. This is the second toe surgery we've seen from an all-star. Darius Garland just had surgery like a week or two ago, and he's going to miss the start of the season. So I imagine the surgery can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months to recover from.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
might not see Jaren Jackson until the end of the year.
No, I think he's going to have a quick recovery. I think
It
he'll probably
could-
have two
I mean,
to 3 months.
I don't know though, because like he's a lot heavier. There's going to be a lot more
Sure.
load bearing on that toe. Darius Garland's like 6'1", 190, something
Right.
like that.
But you have to remember he's working with the best of the best surgeons, best of the best PTs, best of the best everything. So I'm assuming he gets 2 to 3
Yeah.
months to recover.
It
for
could
sure.
be like before All-Star break, maybe like the first 10, 15 games.
Well,
I don't think.
6 months takes you to January.
Well, yeah,
All-Star break in
but-
February.
Well, yeah, I'm not expecting it to be a full 6 months. That's why. But
Yeah, I think-
the timeline's not there yet. They'll say the timeline, they said.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll have to see.
But the fact that there's no timeline's a little like concerning.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because without a timeline, they don't know, and them not knowing could mean that it might be longer than expected. And
Well, it
I mean-
just happened, so
right,
it's hard to have a timeline like right after the injury occurs. But they'll probably get one out in a few days, and then we'll see.
yeah. I mean, regardless, the Grizzlies aren't doing anything. I'm not fearing of them. Josh said he's fine in the West. Yeah, he's clearly not fine in the
I
West.
know. Yeah.
That's for sure.
No.
But Jaren Jackson, if he's not 100% at the start of the season, then the Grizzlies might not even make the play-in.
Well, yeah, exactly. We have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And free agency is still going. Who knows what can happen?
The fact that he hurt himself off of NBA activity is just what makes it worse.
It does. 100%.
Those things happen. It's truly unfortunate. You can get hurt then. You can get hurt during a game, during practice. You can get hurt just getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's, I guess, the tough part. But we send our well wishes to Jaren Jackson. Hopefully he makes a full recovery.
Yeah.
And guys, do we have any final thoughts on Malik Beasley or Triple J before we get into the next segment?
No, let's
rock.
go.
Into the next segment we go. It's time to bring up the mood a little bit. We just dealt with 2 depressing stories. So let's get a little bit better. We have a historic moment in WNBA news on the Floor Spacer podcast. First time in a while we've talked about it, but it's back. Don't worry, we're going to be covering a little bit more of the WNBA as we keep progressing through. So on the screen right now, we have a tweet from the WNBA's official Twitter account saying, "Historic moment alert. The W is leveling up. 3 new teams, 3 new cities, 1 unstoppable future. Say hello to our newest expansion teams, 2028, Cleveland, 2029, Detroit, and 2030, now the city of sisterly love, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania." So shout out to those 3 cities. Now, obviously, there's 2 new teams coming next season, the Toronto Tempo, and for some reason, the Portland team still has no name.
They're coming the year after.
Okay. Oh, it says they're coming in 2026.
Oh,
So-
with Toronto.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if it is the case, they should probably get a move on and
Yeah.
figure out some sort of branding.
I saw 2027. Maybe that's because the name's not chosen, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm
You
not
guys
sure.
want to come up with names for the teams that don't have names yet?
We could, yeah.
Like the Philadelphia Sisters instead of the Sixers?
No, they already.
Someone
that'd
had,
be tough, right?
someone had tweeted the 76 hers.
Ah,
Yeah, that like went viral.
I don't know
76
what their
errors.
names would be actually.
the Sisters, bro.
The sisters is
Philly
crazy.
could be. Wasn't the Detroit Shock?
It was the Detroit Shock and the Cleveland Rockers. I say they just bring both of those back.
Who was the Sting? Charlotte Sting? I saw
think
one about
so.
Charlotte, but that's it. So Detroit Shock, Cleveland Rockers. I would just bring it back.
You have to bring it back. That's like old school nostalgic WNBA.
So what happened to those teams? They folded?
Yeah, so some of them got relocated, some of them shut down. Like I know the Houston
Got it.
Comets had shut down. I know San Antonio became the Aces. So
Listen, I mean, this is great. I mean, Toronto, big NBA teams getting a WNBA. Portland, I still think big NBA city. They're getting a team. Now you
Yeah.
got Cleveland, Detroit, two teams in the Central that are big fan bases. Philly, another big fan base.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have three really popular cities in the NBA and in the basketball world. That's amazing. I think New York needs another team. You gotta bring 2.
Nope.
Because there is 2 teams in every sport in New York. You got to bring one to the Knicks.
No.
That should be next.
I disagree fully.
Bring one to Jersey, bro.
Ooh, in the Peru?
I think
That would be
Jersey
nice.
Jersey has an audience for the WNBA.
It does, but everyone roots for the Liberty.
That's true. The Liberty,
well, they can definitely start rooting for the Jersey
the New
team
Jersey team.
easily.
I don't know. I feel like the WNBA should be a place for all the fan bases to unite as one.
You know what's actually crazy? I'm surprised they've not tried to attack Miami yet. Miami doesn't have a team.
Again, a lot of these teams, every team except for Seattle, Las Vegas, and Connecticut are all NBA affiliates. So it's really up to those teams if they want to take on that challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously the Pistons, the Sixers, and the Cavs essentially all want this. So,
Okay.
I know Portland, the Blazers pushed for a G League team and a WNBA team, and they got both in back-to-back years.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, obviously the W is essentially getting the torch from the MLS. The MLS expanded literally 1 to 2 teams every single year up until
did.
this season, where they now have their 30th team in San
Oh, nice.
Diego.
Yeah.
And it's the W's turn now. I think there's only, how many teams are there in the league right now? There's 12?
12.
Oh, 12.
There's 13 right now.
Oh, 13, yeah.
There'll be 18 by 2030.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good, and they're just going to keep on going. So who knows? Maybe sometime down the line you'll get a Miami team. Maybe the Houston Comets come back, the San Antonio Stars come back, and then you can maybe expand to more of those markets. Like
Yeah.
you can go to Vancouver, you can go really anywhere. The world is a WNBA's oyster right now because they're the next thing to grow and progress. So Gia, what's your thoughts on this? I guess nationalization rather than globalization of the W, even though they are going to Canada.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. I like to see the WNBA expand. I feel like you can't really mention the WNBA without mentioning Caitlin Clark. Honestly, I
Yeah.
think she has a lot to do with the recent growth. I don't think, actually. I know she has a lot to do with the recent growth of the WNBA.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I think specifically the Philadelphia team should have existed like a decade ago.
Yeah.
I'm glad Philly finally got a team. They definitely have the people that want to watch more basketball there, WNBA or NBA. So, yeah.
So I just looked. It says it's likely going to be called, the Portland team's likely going to be called the Fire. So
That's pretty fire.
it is, yeah. Honestly, because like if you look at Portland sports, it's kind of underrated. You have the Portland Trailblazers. That sounds cool. Their G League team's the Rip City Remix. That also sounds cool. The soccer team's the Portland Timbers. That also sounds cool. Portland Fire. The Pacific Northwest is just so underrated, man. Like the names are cool.
Fire.
What are they trying to say with that though? Like Timbers,
Timber, and fire.
Are they trying to say wildfires?
Wildfires.
Because it's the West.
Hopefully not. But obviously,
Coast
you know,
gets
a lot of
wild.
lumberjacks are in the Pacific Northwest, so I understand why Timbers are there.
What about fire? Why is fire there?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Maybe it's because there's a lot of natural disaster fires that go on. Maybe.
I don't know.
And that's
Interesting. I mean, the fire would keep the red like the Trailblazers do.
Yeah.
So like it makes sense.
Right.
Definitely a cool name. I wonder what the jersey would look like.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that would look very fire.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Good
Gio.
job, Einstein. Let's go.
Gio, was that a pun?
Yeah.
I don't get it. No.
It's because you're not a dad yet.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, that's all I really have. I mean, we don't know much until this is gonna be an updated story because the names are gonna come out. We're gonna cover that as for sure.
We do have one controversial story. Gio, I know you love some good old controversy.
I do.
Would you like to get into the controversy?
Let's go.
So, an interview today from Yahoo Sports. I'm not going to put it on the screen because I don't want to get copyrighted or anything like that. But you remember the Fever player Sophie Cunningham? She was the one that got into the fight.
Yes.
So they asked her thoughts about the new WNBA teams, and she says, "I don't know how excited people are going to be for Detroit and Cleveland." And Cavs, Pistons fans, and anyone just from that area, they all lost their shit.
Really?
They were clowning on her, and even like Caitlin Clark had even defended Detroit and Cleveland. And one of the Cleveland like state or city, like the city of Cleveland's Twitter page said, "Sophie, your teammate doesn't seem to think Cleveland is too bad." So
listen,
she might be the most hated player coming up pretty soon.
Sophie has some crazy stuff to say. She also is kind of like involved in like a scandal with one of the owners of the WNBA. I don't know if you saw that.
Really?
yeah,
Yeah,
we're not going to get into it though because it's a little
but, like,
sensitive for YouTube.
She's involved in like quotes, but like nothing's happened yet.
Yeah,
But she's a little weird. She's a little out.
Wait, what team is she on again?
the Fever.
The Fever.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, so she's
Yeah.
the teammate. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't know. Is Cleveland gonna have a big WNBA fan base? Will they? I don't know.
Have you seen how packed that the Cavs arena gets? Like Cleveland's one of the biggest basketball fan bases mainly because of LeBron.
Right.
And then I think getting a WNBA, because remember the Cleveland Rockers were a thing, and they loved their Cleveland Rockers. And when they left, you know, it's like a shot to the heart almost.
Yeah.
And the Detroit fans feel the same thing. We saw Detroit was in shambles for years since winning that title in 2004. They lost 28 games in a row a calendar year ago.
Wow.
So now they got Cade Cunningham. They're looking great. And now you're getting a WNBA team. So now you get basketball 24/7 in all three of these cities now because they play mainly during the NBA's off season. They go from like February, March to like, when does it end? Like November, December, kind of around there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think
I get
it's
it.
big for the cities. And I think
I assume the cities did they probably took like polls to see if anyone would welcome a WNBA team or if they would go out to support the WNBA team. So I assume they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But if you look at like San Antonio, they love their NBA basketball, but the WNBA didn't thrive over there, right? For whatever reason.
right.
So I assume the cities know what they're doing though. So I'll leave that up to them.
Well, the WNBA is run a lot differently now than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay.
So they do run in tandem with the NBA a lot more, and obviously a lot of the owners also own the WNBA teams. Like I said, there's only three teams in the W right now that aren't NBA affiliates or not owned by NBA owners.
Which are they?
The Connecticut Sun, the Las Vegas Aces, and the Seattle Storm. So, and Seattle and Vegas, I'm assuming the owners of those teams are going to wind up being the owners of the NBA teams when Adam Silver announces it, because it's rumored that he's going to announce both of them sometime this offseason. So, very much possible that we could be seeing 32 NBA teams by the end of this decade.
Yeah.
Which would be really cool. We get to do expansion draft talks. We get to do all of it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we'll just kind of have to see going forward. And just last thing, obviously, it's pretty certain Detroit and Cleveland are going back to their old names. A couple of the name ideas that have been floated around for Philly's team include the Philadelphia Freedom and the Philadelphia Revolution.
Interesting.
So definitely going with the vibes of
which
the
one do you like better?
colonial days, the Freedom.
The
Freedom.
Revolution is already a name for New England and the MLS.
What about Liberty?
The New York Liberty.
the
at
New York
Donut.
Liberty?
Oh,
The Philadelphia Freedom is sick.
Or the Bells was another
Or the
one.
Bells, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Ring
can't be
bell.
the Philadelphia Liberty.
like the Bells.
unfortunately.
The Bells.
Philly Bells.
Yeah.
I like that.
Philly Bells.
Make it Bells.
The Philly Bells.
I-
actually
we
sounds
vote
cool.
Bells.
Philly Bells.
So, but yeah, one last thing before we move on. If you were to pick the next city for a WNBA team in 2031, where would it be?
I think I would go to Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would go Saskatchewan, North Dakota. Nah, I'm playing.
North Dakota is crazy.
I think I would go.
No.
Well, Denver.
Denver. I
Yeah.
literally was going to say Denver.
I am in agreement. I think
think
Denver
Denver.
or Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think there's definitely
Either
politics involved, and I think Denver would be a good spot.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Because yeah, Denver obviously if you get a star in the W and you have Jokic already,
Right.
insane.
Yeah.
Salt Lake City, they have a really passionate owner. They just got the hockey team, and
Utah,
hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
the Jazz start to play competitively.
Yeah.
and things look up from there. We'll have to see going forward. So, do we have any final thoughts regarding the W before we move on to the next segment?
Let's go.
Alrighty, boys. Obviously, we talked about all the free agency signings that happened on day one yesterday at the time of recording. So if you guys want to go check out our live stream where we reacted to every opening move from free agency, link in the description. Go watch it. We're not going to talk about really any of those signings.
Yeah.
For the
By the
most
way,
part.
by the way, the stream was so fun yesterday. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys want to watch it, I would suggest you fast forward like
Like an
an
hour.
hour
in. An hour
into
in.
into the stream, and you'll get to the good parts. So
Yeah.
Yeah, because honestly, we all thought Shams was asleep
Yeah.
the first half hour, 45 minutes, and then it was just report after report after report, and it got me thinking, man, I miss Woj.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really sad.
Exactly.
However, there were a few things that happened prior to the stream that we didn't talk about because we wanted to talk about it on the pod, and that's the trades. So we have a bunch of trades to talk about today, but we're going to focus on two of them right now, as well as the signings that happened today at the time of recording that we didn't get to talk about with stream. So on the screen right now, here is the first trade. This dropped, I believe, on the 28th. So that was a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So breaking, the Chicago Bulls are trading Lonzo Ball to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Isaac Okoro.
Yeah.
So,
Boys, Gio, your favorite team just got Lonzo Ball. How do you feel?
My favorite team. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this, honestly. I feel like the Cavs needed. You know what? I changed my mind. I think Lonzo Ball on the spot changed my mind.
Yeah.
I think Lonzo Ball is a great pickup because he is, for the simple fact that he's a tall guard, and that's what's taking over in the NBA. Tall guards that can pass the ball, that can play defense, that can do multiple things besides just have a bag and score a basket. That's not what teams need these days. They just need a tall guard that can swing the ball, that makes the right play every single time, and that can play defense. And that is what Lonzo Ball can provide you if he's healthy. So I hope that he's 100% healthy when he's playing, and I think this will end up being a good trade for the Cavaliers.
I like that. Look at you
Yeah.
being positive about the Cavs.
I don't have
Yeah.
anything to add. That's literally what I think. I think Okoro's time was way overdue because I didn't really see a fit there anymore. I know they re-signed him to that deal because he was an RFA, but you lose Ty Jerome, you got to replace him. And I think Lonzo, 100% upgrade if healthy. That is
Yeah.
the biggest problem.
But
If he's not, then you have an issue.
he doesn't have to play a starting role.
No,
Right.
exactly.
He
Well,
can take that Ty Jerome spot.
He may have to do that to start the season because remember, Garland's going to miss time.
Right.
But, when fully healthy, you're looking at a roster of Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell. I guess Hunter would slot into the small forward spot.
Or Strus.
Or Strus, yeah, either
Yeah.
or. And then Evan Mobley, Jared Allen.
Yeah.
And then that bench spot, you're looking at Lonzo. You're looking at Sam Merrill, who they just extended. You're looking at the other one of Hunter and Strus, who doesn't start.
Yep.
And they just signed Larry Nance Jr.,
Larry
who's
Nance is back.
Back in Cleveland.
who's one of the bounciest players in the NBA.
He was. I don't know how.
Well, I think he still is. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
Larry-
still goated in
Larry
the
was
dunker
so
spot.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shout out to Larry Nance Jr. I really like the way this Cavs team is looking. I think on paper, they're comfortably the best team in the East right now, especially off a 64-win season, right?
On paper.
Yeah.
We'll see if they're frauds, though.
It's got to mesh. But like I said, all the teams here that we will discuss, the big component of it was depth, and a lot of them addressed it remarkably.
Yeah.
And I think, and they're all the contenders that we'll get into later. But again, it's been this was a bench like deep free agent class. Not a lot of starters, some starters.
Low end starters.
But
more
majority were bench depth guys, and a lot of teams hit really good. And that's all I have to say. And I think this is one of them too.
Yeah, look, not so fast, because I would not call the Cavaliers contenders. This is my opinion, right?
Okay.
I just think that the franchise is fraudulent. Just straight up fraudulent. No matter how good it seems to be on paper, they don't get it done in the playoffs. Therefore, to me, they are not contenders.
So who would you say in the NBA right now are contenders?
Okay. So
At least in the East, because we all know who's a contender in the West,
right?
But who in the East would you like? The East stinks. They have to be a contender.
100%. Well, not so fast. Okay,
They are. Gio.
Here we go.
Come on.
Here we go. I got you right now.
Okay.
Celtics obviously, and the Pacers are obviously out of there.
Oh, okay.
they're
I thought you
obviously
were
out
talking
of
about
there.
them
No,
as
no, no.
contenders. Yeah.
So all three of those, the Bucks, Celtics, and Pacers are no longer contenders, right? Because those guys are out. They're all stars.
Okay.
And then
Did you say Bucks?
yeah, the
The
Bucks.
Bucks
as well.
aren't out of it.
Oh yeah, I think they
We're
are.
gonna get into it.
We'll talk
have a
about it.
problem.
We'll talk about the Bucks in the
Yeah, the
next
Bucks
segment.
aren't into it.
Okay, we'll talk. All right, we'll talk about them.
Yeah, we'll talk about them in a bit.
But to me, at least, those three are pretty much out of it. I mean, if you have Giannis, anything can happen.
Right.
But those three teams are out. But and now you have the New York Knicks. You have in my opinion, the Philadelphia 76ers, if you have a healthy Joel Embiid. Those teams, I believe, are the two contenders in the East.
That's crazy.
Look, I have some crazy takes. You got to get used to that.
Look,
we've been doing this for a year now, Tyler. You know me, bro.
I don't think any team's been more embarrassing as fraudulent more than the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, that's their past. I think this is a new Sixers era starting this year.
And you can't make the same argument for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
No. Because they still have Donovan Mitchell on the team.
They're healthy.
I'm sorry, Donovan Mitchell is a great player. But his history shows that in the playoffs, he never or has never gotten the job done. Until he proves me wrong, I'm going to just go with what history tells
Look,
me.
Gio, I'm sorry to tell you, Joel Embiid's a great player.
Oh,
but in the playoffs, his history, he's proven to never get the job done. In fact, he plays worse. At least Donovan Mitchell plays at an elite level.
Yeah.
And they just fall short. Literally, Joel Embiid is a heavy reason why they haven't won these second-round
It's also
series.
because he's been injured going into the playoffs pretty much every single season.
You can make the same argument with Donovan Mitchell.
Maybe a couple of those seasons, but Joel Embiid, for the most part, has been injured every single season going into the playoffs. Hopefully, like I said before, hopefully he's healthy, okay? And, yeah, so that's my view on that.
Understandable, I guess. You know, you're a little delulu, but
I am. It's okay,
fine.
though.
It's fine. But look, I think the Cavs are on paper the best team in the East. They are a contender in the Eastern Conference. I think they're one of maybe 2 or 3 teams that can be up there. I'd put them up there with the Knicks, and I'd put them up there with maybe the Magic on a good day.
Oh, I forgot about the Magic.
It depends on the weather with Orlando, because they also have never gotten it done. They've lost in the first round 2 years in a row.
Right.
So we'll kind of have to see going forward with that. But I really like this move. I think it's a unique move. I think, Ty Jerome had a great season.
Yeah.
He fell flat on his face against the Pacers. I think this gives Lonzo a fresh opportunity, and who knows what can happen. He hasn't played meaningful basketball in a while. I'm excited to see what it could look like.
Yeah.
So, do we have any final thoughts regarding the Lonzo Isaac Okoro trade?
No, let's roll to the next one.
All right, let's get into the next trade. This one happened, I believe, the next day,
Yeah, it
on
did.
Sunday, between the Utah Jazz and the Charlotte Hornets. So here's the tweet on the screen. Just in, the Utah Jazz are trading Collin Sexton and a 2030 second-round pick to the Charlotte Hornets for Yusuf Nurkic. Crazy how that was the price for Collin Sexton after all those years of trade rumors.
Right.
So, Antoine, your thoughts on this trade?
Listen, Charlotte is looking like one of the best teams with that trade. Sexton, I assume, is going to be that 6th man. But again, LaMelo's injury history is a long list. So Sexton can just hop into that starting point guard spot, no problem, when need be. And they did draft 3 really good guys. 1 center, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Con Kneppel, Liam McNeely.
Yeah.
They also acquired Pat Connaughton, Mason Plumlee. They're adding really good pieces, vets. The rookies are going to be good. Nurkic as a dump, we know that for a fact. Jazz just kind of dumped Sexton for nothing. I don't know why.
Yo, what are the Jazz doing?
I don't know. They waived a lot of players. Clarkson's gone. We know that for a fact.
The Jazz are weird, man.
They are.
They do things so uniquely. Like, Danny Ainge is just so surgical with everything he does, whether it's signing someone, trading someone, and if he doesn't get the deal that he wants, just get rid of the asset. There's no point.
Yeah.
You're just kind of eating up the cap, regardless. But credit Jeff Peterson. He's really starting to change the vibe around the Charlotte Hornets roster.
Yeah.
They look kind of decent.
Yeah. Formidable.
They look kind of good.
Yeah.
Collin Sexton brings a lot of value to this roster.
Does.
And I think if LaMelo Ball can stay healthy, maybe they'll make the play in this
I
year.
agree.
Like, maybe. Will they get blown out again? Probably. But
I wouldn't even say probably.
definitely.
No.
You don't think they will at all?
Potentially they can get into the playoffs. Potentially.
Hopefully.
Because the East is that weak.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think this team has depth now. This team has star power and Lonzo and LaMelo Ball.
Yeah.
And I think Collin Kneppel is going to be a great player in the NBA. I don't know how good he's going to be in the rookie season, but I think he has a high upside.
I am very high on their 3 picks that they took. They're all really good college players.
Don't forget Brandon Miller. I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course. It needs to translate to the NBA, and the depth is looking a lot better for them. I know they did also just re-sign Trey Mann. He's back on a 3-year deal, $24 million.
And they got Plumlee back as well.
Yeah. So Trey Mann's back, another point guard again to help LaMelo out if the injury need be. And Trey Mann was on a heater at the beginning of last year.
Right.
The injury problem hurt him the rest of the year. And we saw he probably was going to be that 6th man if he was keeping on that trajectory.
Yeah.
But the injury happened, but now he's back. So, again, Charlotte, locking down guys that are going to make this team better.
Yeah.
Right now, looking at the depth chart for Charlotte, it has Collin Sexton starting as the shooting guard with LaMelo, Brandon Miller at the 3, the POS at the 4, and then Moussa Diabate as the starting center.
Yeah.
And then you got Trey Mann. You still have Josh Green. You have Con Kneppel. Grant Williams is coming back from the torn ACL. Mm-hmm. You have Mason Plumlee. You have a really decent roster here.
You do. You got some vets. You got some young guys.
Exactly. So Charlotte, things are starting to kind of look up for them. And as for Utah, I guess the goal here, try and get Nurkic's value up a little bit. I mean, trust me, he played so bad last year. You can only go up, right? Maybe you can squeeze out a 2nd round pick for him. Mm-hmm. If the Lakers are so desperate because they have yet to find a center, it would not surprise me if Yusef Nurkic goes to the Los Angeles Lakers. Which would be hilarious because they spent all of last year clowning the Phoenix Suns fan base for having Yusef Nurkic as their starting center.
Yeah.
So who knows? We'll have to kind of see where that goes.
Yeah.
But do we have any final thoughts regarding that sort of trade before we get into some ancillary signings?
Yeah, let me get into it because I have a whole list up. We're not going to get into Denver. Denver is for later.
Yep, Denver and Milwaukee are for the last 2 seconds.
I'm going to go because this is in alphabetical order, and I know who signed today because I read the chat, not like Gio does.
Okay.
We're going to go to Detroit. We're going to go back to what we talked about in the first segment. So we know LeVert, and today they got Duncan Robinson on a 3-year deal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they sent Simone Fontecchio the other way in a sign and trade, but Dunk finds his new team, has been a for-lifer on Miami. We know his come up in that organization now makes the move over to Detroit, presumably to win now, obviously. And Dunk is kind of that Beasley replacement along with LeVert.
Yeah, he is the Beasley replacement.
Okay, that's fine.
Because LeVert can't shoot like that.
Right.
Yeah.
LeVert's just essentially just a good bench depth piece, I guess.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
The only thing is Duncan Robinson cannot defend for the life of him. So Malik Beasley, he's tall.
He's 6'10".
Is he?
Yeah.
Duncan Robinson 6'10"?
I think he is.
No way.
I'll double check.
He's probably like 6'6", 6'7", maybe. He's tall he's a tall guy.
He's 6'7".
Dunk
okay,
is 6'7". Yes.
Yeah. So look, he has some size, but in terms of his defense, like on-ball defense, nothing close to Malik Beasley. So he can pick up in the shooting department, but not the defensive.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the Pistons do with that on the defensive side.
Yeah. I know. That's a good move. They needed to fill that in. But like I said, again, moving on from Detroit, we're not going to get into Milwaukee. That'll be in the next segment.
Yep.
My team.
You're getting to your Knicks, bro.
Knicks. So we know Clarkson's coming. Shams dropped again out of left field. I had no idea the Knicks were interested in this guy at all, but it makes a lot of sense. Gershon Yabusele, Mr. Frenchman himself, agreed to a 2-year, $14 million deal or $15 million deal with the Knicks. And I had loved this signing. 2-year, $12 million, I'm sorry, with the player option.
Yeah.
I love this move.
That might be the best piece of business the Knicks have done in years. Like, genuinely.
I mean, look, I don't know how good Yabusele was because I did not watch the Sixers at all.
He was one of their best players.
He was?
See, that explains a lot why he thinks they're going to be contenders this
No,
year.
well, look.
He was healthy the whole season.
Look, I mean, obviously, why would you watch one of the worst teams in the league last season? That's obvious. But anyway.
Exactly. The same team you had finishing second in the East
Okay,
and going
don't
to
out
the
me.
NBA
Don't
Finals.
out me. Don't out me, bro.
Look, sir, we gotta hold you accountable for your outlandish Delulu takes.
You said the same thing. Like you said, top 5 or something.
I had them finishing like 3rd or 4th, but I had them going out in the first round.
Still,
I will say the Knicks needed to address the bench and have a better bench. Clarkson replaces Campaign. Upgrade.
Major.
Yabusele replaces Achua. Major upgrade.
major upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bench looks 100% better. I am now back on the Knicks fan wave, as I always was, because I love the signings. We might have to figure out some maneuverability with some certain trades because they still have 2 or 3 spots left to fill out on the roster.
Now let's see what the Knicks do with coaching because maybe, hopefully, they find a
Still no
coach
coach.
that's going to play the bench pieces. You know, because Tom Thibodeau would not have
I'm
played.
going to tell you who the coach is going to be because the Knicks are telling the free agents that the coaching is going to be figured out sometime this week or next week.
And who?
It's going to be Mike Brown.
Mike Brown, you think?
Yeah.
It's going to be Mike
Like,
Brown.
how sure are you? What percent?
91%.
91%.
Mike Brown.
Get ready for more depth not being used because Mike Brown never played this.
Seriously?
He had Keon Ellis in prison
Oh.
his whole
I
coaching
mean,
tenure.
they could switch up and go to Jenkins because Jenkins has a second interview as well. Who knows?
We'll see. Hopefully, these guys get playing time, though.
But we have to wait for that Champs tweet because
Yeah, I
it
don't
could be
know.
Brown and it could be go back to Jenkins. They could switch up like last second.
Like the
I think Clarkson's way too good to not play. And same thing with Yabusele.
well,
course,
he'll
of
play a
course.
couple guys. Like he'll play 8 instead of the 5 that Thibodeau plays.
Right.
But I think Clarkson. We need to see because Clarkson hasn't played meaningful basketball in quite a long
Yeah.
time. Yabusele, we'll have to see how he plays. He had a good year last year, 11 points per game.
Nice.
But that was his first season back. We'll see if he can continue this in his second year. To me, still with the Knicks, that starting lineup's just not good enough defensively. And I think that's if Brunson and Cat are going to continue to be this bad on defense, there's going to be a major problem with the Knicks, and they really need to find someone, whether it's a trade or whatever, because Josh Hart's making a lot of money. You have to extend Mikal Bridges. One of them has to go, and you have to bring in someone that's willing to defend.
Listen, I say you trade Josh Hart. Yeah,
Yeah.
you pick up whatever you
think they
get whatever
should.
you can get for Josh Hart, and you start Yabusele at the power forward. You have Yabusele at the power forward, Cat at the center, OG at the small forward, McCall at the shooting guard, and Brunson at the point. I think
Yeah.
that's a good starting lineup.
I think you need to find a 5 that can defend and play Cat at the 4. I
Oh,
don't think
I
you
see
can
what
win.
you're saying.
I don't think you can win a championship with Cat as your starting center.
I see what
Yeah.
you're saying.
As the power forward, I can start to see it a little bit.
Well, maybe defensively, Yabusele can play the center,
Don't forget Mitch.
and Mitch can play
forget
some
Mitch.
pretty
Right,
good
you can,
minutes.
but I would imagine Mitchell Robinson gets traded, and
Yeah.
Yabusele's 6'8". I mean, he could, but
He's not a center.
yeah, he's not a center.
I don't know why Shams tweeted center Gershon. He's not a
He
center.
was listed as a center
on
this
the
season.
Philly. I know, but
So-
it's not.
Because they had no.
undersized.
Yeah.
So
But he is pretty girthy. He's a
Hey, yo.
jacked guy.
he definitely is.
Yeah.
We have we're gonna get again 2 teams really were in the news today. We're gonna get into Milwaukee after this and Denver. Those are the 2 we're not gonna talk about them now. The last one I think we kind of covered yesterday was Schroeder. He went to the Kings, but the deal terms were not announced. They were announced today. It was a 3-year deal for $45 million to
Nice.
Sacramento.
They tried to get Malik Monk in Detroit in a sign and trade. They couldn't get it done. They couldn't really get it formulated. So
That would have been very nice.
it would have been a really good deal for them because Malik Monk offers so much creativity on the offensive end, and I think having a secondary shot creator next to Cade, I think elevates that Detroit offense so much, and it would have given JB Bickerstaff a much easier time deciphering this. But the good news is You have Jaden Ivey coming back this season. He was playing incredible basketball until that freak injury in January happened.
What he like broke something?
He broke his fibula.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
we'll have to hope that he comes back to playing his best. Now we do have another trade. I forgot to get. Oh, not another trade. We do have a couple extensions that we need to get into. The first one is massive. Now, obviously, after winning MVP, winning the conference finals MVP, winning the NBA finals MVP, and making an all-NBA team, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was eligible for a supermax contract. Now, the plan was to wait until next offseason, and at that point, he could have signed a 5-year, $380 million contract, which would have been the richest in NBA history. And now he just agreed today, for less money technically, but it's still quite a lot, a 4-year, $285 million supermax contract extension, valid until 2031. So that is an AAV of, I believe, $71 million per year for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah.
Gio, your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I'm pretty sure we talked a little bit about this on the stream yesterday, but it wasn't confirmed.
We didn't really touch on it.
No? Okay.
No.
Well, I mean, look, that's a hell of a lot of money, right? I mean, if you want to be friends with SGA, now's the time.
Dude,
the gifts that he's going to give out, because I'm pretty sure he already gave out Rolexes to the entire team.
He did. His great grandchildren are going to be set for. They don't have to work a day in their life.
Yeah, they're blessed, bro.
Insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew it was going to happen. It gets done, and we just move forward. That's it. We knew it was going to happen. I mean, big extension, the biggest one in NBA history.
Deserves it.
He didn't wait though, which was the interesting thing. Because remember, they still have to extend J-Dub. And they still have to pay a couple. They have obviously paid a couple of the other guys. I know they paid their bench pieces, but
yeah, they did.
SGA taking this contract compared to next year gave them a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
They had the 23rd highest payroll last year. Mm-hmm. Like it's objectively insane that they were able to win a championship with this young of a roster. Mm-hmm. It really is a testament to how good they were. Yeah. And as much as we like to clown SGA every now and then, we do acknowledge that he's an amazing player. And this was quite frankly deserved, no matter how insanely rich the contract is.
Yeah.
And guess what? That contract's about to get blown out of the water. If the Phoenix Suns and Devin Booker agree to a contract extension, they are right now in talks. And if they agree, Giovanni Squatteri, Devin Booker will sign a 2-year, $150 million max extension.
It's ridiculous.
75 a year, making him the richest man in the NBA. I mean, that's just crazy. Like
is that after tax or is it before?
I don't know how it works necessarily, but the number 150 doesn't seem large for NBA terms because we just saw SGA sign to 280, but 2 years. 2 years is crazy. 75 mil in both years.
Yeah,
that's nuts. It's hard for Devin Booker to turn that down, right?
It's crazy.
Oh, of course.
He's not turning that down.
I know.
Hell no.
It's insane. We're gonna see. I mean, they're making almost $20 mil more than LeBron.
Yeah.
Well, LeBron's old, so
I know.
LeBron's on the final year of that deal. He signed years ago.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
It's insane though, how it all kind of comes to fruition. And we got one more extension to talk about. This one happened earlier today. We'll put the tweet on the screen from Shams Charania. The Toronto Raptors center Jakob Poeltl has agreed to a 4-year, $104 million contract extension with the franchise through 2030. He's a player. He picked up his player option for this season at $19.5 million, and then this will add the 3 additional years to his deal. So obviously, Masai, we didn't really talk about it. Masai Ujiri and the Raptors parted ways. Yeah. So this is kind of the new era for the Toronto Raptors. And, Jakob Poeltl had that insanity stretch. He had an insanity run pretty much in the early part of the season when he was getting 30 and 20. Like it was just insane. And
good for Yak.
Yeah, this seems like a fat overpay though, for being honest.
I want to see what Fetty has to say about that.
Yeah.
What do you think Fetty would say? Overpay or no?
No.
There was a reason why they had to do this though. Remember, we're in the era of double bigs. And the center market's very sparse. So there's your best available center right now is what? Al Horford, DeAndre Ayton, Bol. Jakob Poeltl would have been someone the Lakers or
100%.
any of these teams easily could have gotten. Well, the Knicks have a center on the roster.
Yeah.
Even though he's a cone, he's still an incredible offensive player.
Yeah.
Jakob Poeltl provides value on both ends of the floor. And I feel like the Raptors had to kind of lock him up into this deal because you can't let him walk.
No.
If he walked to Indiana or if he walked to the Lakers or really anywhere, that just can't happen. That's why I think the Nets are going to get a good package in return for Nick Claxton if we do wind up trading him, because the center market is what it is. Now centers are going to start to get paid more because you're going to need two bigs in every NBA lineup to compete for a championship. Because if you look back at the previous champions, 2025, you obviously have Chet Hartenstein. 2024, you obviously had Horford, Porzingis, or really any sort of combination that the Celtics ran. 2023, Gordon and Jokic. I know they're not two centers, but they're both big.
Yeah.
And then the Warriors were really the only team that didn't run a big lineup, but that's because Draymond Green is incredible at what he does.
Yeah.
And then 2021, the Bucks, Giannis, Brook Lopez. 2020 Lakers, Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard. I think this is the new era of the NBA we're kind of getting ourselves acclimated to. And double bigs are here, and you're going to start seeing really good centers go like top 5 in the draft. Who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah, that pretty much sums up the vast majority of kind of what went down in the NBA. Obviously, Pat Connaughton got traded, but we'll talk about that in the Bucks segment in a bit. There were a couple more, and yeah, are you guys ready to get into our next two teams?
Let's rock.
Let's go.
But let's talk about the Bucks. It has been a very wacky 24 hours for the lads in Wisconsin. So, I guess for some context, back-to-back first-round exits, 3 first-round exits in a row, actually, but back-to-back to the Pacers. And a lot of questions were on, does Giannis want out? What's going to happen? He's finally thought about potentially playing elsewhere. Then you lose Brook Lopez in free agency to the Los Angeles Clippers, leaving them without a center. And obviously, they did a couple ancillary moves that we talked about last night. They got Gary Trent Jr. back. They got Taurean Prince back. And as we mentioned previously, they traded Pat Connaughton, who was going to be on the trade block after he opted in, to his player option. And then big news dropped this morning. Probably the most shocking move of free agency so far. We'll put the tweet on the screen from Shams Charania that the Bucks have signed Miles Turner to a 4-year, $107 million deal, plus a player option in 2029, a full 15% trade kicker, an absolute stunning move from the Milwaukee Bucks. However, there's more to this story because, as you all know, Giannis is on a $54 million a year supermax, and how the heck were you managing to get all of this salary, under the second apron? There had to have been some move that you would have needed to make to, essentially get yourselves under, like we saw Boston do by trading away Holiday and Porzingis, like all these other teams did. And the Bucks made probably the biggest, it's just a business decision in NBA history, that the Milwaukee Bucks are waiving Damian Lillard and stretching the remaining $113 million on his contract in order to get Miles Turner to fit in the cap sheet.
Wow.
So Damian Lillard, as we all know, tore his Achilles at the end of the Indiana Pacers series, and basically the Bucks just said, "So long, pal."
Yeah.
And he'll be making $22 million. He'll be getting a $22 million check from the Bucks every July 1st for the next 5 years. So the biggest buyout in NBA history.
Wow.
And Bradley Beal won't even top that because Dame makes more money.
Right.
So very wacky day for the Bucks organization. Gia, we'll start with you, my guy. Your thoughts on these decisions from the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit off camera, and I said that basically I feel like Damian Lillard isn't that good anymore, isn't that productive anymore. But then you hit me with, this is the best statistical season he's had in a while, or whatever that, or whatever, right? But I feel like those are empty stats, like insignificant stats that don't add or contribute to wins. That's what I feel like what was going on with the Bucks and Damian Lillard. I feel like they need a player, a younger player. Dame is how old?
36, I think.
It's old. He's old.
34.
34.
Right? And look, he's 34. He just had a torn Achilles.
Yeah. At that age, it's very scary.
Yeah, that's a career ender right there.
Yeah.
So how old was Kobe when he tore his? I think around the same age.
Around the same age.
So it's like after that, it's pretty much over, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the Bucks decided they didn't really care that much about the individual person of Damian Lillard. Rather, they cared more about the franchise, and that's what a business is supposed to do. They're supposed to do their best in terms of winning basketball games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Giannis was not a fan of that.
There's conflicting reports.
Okay.
Because obviously Giannis apparently signed off on the Miles Turner thing, but there's reports saying that he's also not pleased that they cut Dame. Both can be true. Like, maybe they didn't tell him they were going to cut Dame.
I think Giannis believes that this now makes the Bucks better, but he also has empathy for Damian Lillard. He just tore his Achilles. Now he's getting waived.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he definitely has empathy for the individual person of Damian Lillard. But as a team, I think Giannis is satisfied because now I'm guessing that he feels the Bucks got better, and I think they did get better. So
I don't know. It's really hard to gauge, did the Bucks get better? Because at the end of the day, you lost your point guard that averaged 25, 7, and 5 on near 50% shooting from the field and an all-star, and you essentially replaced him with a center that does the same thing as Brook Lopez, except he's a little bit younger. And we saw
definitely better than Brook.
And we saw in the finals, Brook Lopez played a much better NBA Finals than Miles Turner did.
Yes.
So I don't necessarily think that's necessarily making them better. And let me tell you this depth chart. You have Ryan Rollins or Kevin Porter Jr. as your starting point guard, with AJ Green or Gary Trent, whoever they want to start, Kyle Kuzma, who's been one of the worst players in the NBA, Giannis, and Miles Turner. And then off the bench, I think they just traded for Vasilij Micic, if I'm not mistaken.
But he's leaving to go back to Europe.
Okay, so yeah, he's not going to be in the lineup.
Yeah.
So you have Gary Harris, who they just signed.
Yep.
You have Torian Prince and Bobby Portis, along with Jericho Sims and a couple two-way guys.
Yeah. Exactly.
Giannis back is hurting, man. Antoine, do you think the Bucks got better?
No. No.
I'm glad we agree.
Miles Turner is a very nice gift. Very nice. I like it. It's a shiny new car. But it's not a shiny new car I think the Bucks want, if I'm being honest. Bucks fans. Again, like, MT is a very interesting player. I'll say that, to say the least. We know how bad the final stunk was. We know how great of a season he had regardless. Going to Milwaukee is just like a same thing to KD. You're going to the enemy, but the enemy is in the East. And I know the Bucks and Pacers have a little hatred towards each other. Playing with Giannis, if Giannis stays, it looks great. But if Giannis leaves, it doesn't look great at all. I'm not a fan of the other signings they made. They literally brought back the same team plus Gary Harris. But what is Gary Harris doing at this day and age?
Yeah.
Trent is back. Portis is back.
Being old for a living.
Like, the same lineup is back, just plus Miles Turner.
Who said they're done? I don't think they're done.
Well, we don't know about Giannis.
I mean, what else can they do?
They need a point guard. But
yeah, they're going to get some points.
Their payroll's stuffed to the brim.
Do you think Russ goes there?
No.
No.
I hope he doesn't.
That would be a bad move for him.
Yeah.
I really hope he doesn't.
MT, like, he could be phenomenal for Milwaukee. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think that was the right thing for them to do right now. I think Giannis should have been a priority to figure out. Maybe Giannis wanted this to prevent leaving, and I know there was reports in that Giannis is keeping an eye on what Milwaukee does in free agency before he makes that final decision for a trade.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same. It's literally the same roster, plus Miles Turner. So
Pretty much.
Did you really go into free agency? You just signed the same players back, and you just threw money at Miles Turner, and he just happened to accept.
Well, obviously, yeah.
That's kind of it. Like, I know Portis is great, but was Torian Prince good? No. Was Sims? No. KPJ? Not really. Trent was great, but we know Butterfingers happened in the games. And was it Game 5? Game 5?
Maybe he's gambling.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And then Gary Harris hasn't played meaningful basketball since Denver Nuggets.
No, he played on the Magic.
I know, but
He was in I think he started in 2024 against Cleveland.
Yeah.
okay, fair. And then
But he wasn't good.
You know-
That's the moral of the story.
I don't know. It's very. I want to see what else they do before the season ends. I mean, the off season ends. If Giannis stays, Giannis goes. But it's going to be a very interesting season for them nonetheless, because Giannis could request out before the trade deadline. Who knows, depending on how the season goes. Mm-hmm. We're going to be going back to this team a lot, 100% throughout the season. Yeah. The MT deal, I would give it a solid B. I wouldn't say it's a home run at all.
It's not a home run. It is. I will give it a B as well. I think, to your point, Tyler, in the previous segment where you said the NBA is being dominated by double bigs, right? And so now I think that's what they got. I think Miles Turner is in. I think he's still in the prime of his career. Yeah. Right. Even though he's starting to get on that little older side, I think he's still in the prime. Obviously, Giannis is Giannis. And so double bigs, I mean, this is the foundation of a championship team. Well, they need now, and it's no easy task. All they need now is to get some good guard play.
They're multiple moves away, and that's kind of the main problem. Even with Dame on the roster, we still didn't take them seriously. If you compare this roster to the 2021 roster, the only thing they have in common is the double bigs, because Giannis and Brook Lopez provided the spacing. Miles Turner is going to do that. Both of them didn't grab rebounds that much to begin with. They're still not going to do that.
Well, look at this.
But they still had on the roster one of the best point of attack defenders we've seen in this era in the NBA, in Drew Holiday.
Which they can get back.
They could.
They could.
I don't think Portland's trading him.
You think he's going to?
I think he's going to stay, because they're building that kind of defensive, gritty team out in PDX.
They can also get DiVincenzo.
He was injured. He got hurt in the second playoff game in 2021.
I know. I'm saying they can pick him up now.
They can.
He was not a point guard. Got to trade for him.
Well, but he's a piece. Yeah.
But what I'm saying though is that team, you had Drew Holiday, you had the double bigs, you actually had a functioning PJ Tucker that not only was tiring guys out. He wasn't guarding them well, but he was hitting threes in the corner.
Yeah.
And he was being a good voice he was in Giannis's ear all the time.
Right.
Keeping everyone in check. And Chris Middleton was the elite closer. Right. That is what the Bucks do not have. As incredible as Giannis is, he dropped 50 in a closeout game in the finals. Chris Middleton closed a good majority of those playoff games when they were close. The Bucks do not have that. Miles Turner is not going to do that. And I think this is going to formulate into Giannis requesting out midway through the season.
If I was Milwaukee, I didn't mention Dame. Dame did not deserve to get waived. That is literally insanity.
So if you're the Bucks,
don't cut me off. Can I talk?
I'm sorry.
I'm still talking.
Finish.
I understand the business. That's okay. But there are different ways to maneuver that. They could have did a contract. What's the thing? They could have did a restructuring.
Okay.
That's not hard.
Interesting. Okay.
But instead of keeping a roster spot for someone that could not come back maybe in a year or two, they waived them. They could have got rid of Kuzma first. Why is Dame the first one gone?
Because you just traded Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma.
But Kuz has got to go. That frees up so much money for that.
Stock up again.
You have to understand the fact that when a GM makes a trade, you can't just give up on it after a couple bad games. As bad as Kuzma is, you have to try and make something out of it. Just like they gave Dame 2.5 years.
But Kuz is in trade talks. I saw on Twitter.
Well, obviously he's in trade talks.
And his team is interested in him.
I think we're still tanking, so I'll take him.
Yeah,
I'll take him. But the good news is for you is that Dame does not feel that way. So on the screen right now, we have a quote from Mark Spears.
Dame said
saying
he's happy.
He's ecstatic.
Oh, wow.
There's about double-digit number of teams calling interested in him. Wow. When will Dame be back? There's some speculation that he could be back this season after All-Star break.
No way.
Please do not do that, Dame, because you need the full recovery for the Achilles.
Yeah.
But right now, Dame has so many options. The Warriors reached out to him. Could you imagine a Steph, Damian Lillard backcourt in Golden State with Jimmy Butler on the roster? Because we don't know how much money Dame's going to get in this next contract. He could take a vet minimum for all we know.
That's what I was going to say.
Their defense would be abysmal.
Oh, it would be terrible. But that's an option for them. He can finally get his wish and go to Miami. He could finally do it.
I don't think Miami's
He can go back to Portland. Miami is interested in him. He can go. He can really go anywhere he freaking wants. He can go to Phoenix. He can go to Utah. He can go anywhere. Sure. The world is his oyster. All 30 teams are going to be looking for him. He can go to Boston. There's so many opportunities.
There are so many.
I just hope Dame takes the time this year. Get your body right. You're in your mid to late 30s. Don't be messing around with the Achilles. Let that heal. Take the season off. Strengthen up. And whether that means you can sign tomorrow, you can sign next year. Do whatever you want. You're still making $22 million this year anyways.
I am very curious if Dame did not tear that Achilles, if MT would have signed, and then what would happen with Lillard trade, like, because the Achilles is a big thing. Because forget the Achilles thing ever happened, MT would still be in Indiana presumably.
Well,
or
remember, if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't tear his Achilles, the Pacers likely win the championship based on how he was playing.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Miles Turner would have signed.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the Pacers offered north of 20 mil. I guess the Bucks just offered more and the Pacers wouldn't match it. Or Turner just wanted to leave. And this pretty much tarnished his Pacers legacy because he went from absolutely loved being the longest tenured Pacer to going to their biggest rivals, a team that they do not like.
I mean, it could have been a change of scenery thing for him.
Oh, that's probably what it is.
I think that's what it, and then like, let's talk about Indy. Indy's looking very different now. Next year, specifically.
They're in trouble.
Wait to see what they have to do.
I saw a tweet earlier saying, like, I'm starting to get more convinced that Halliburton maybe doesn't finish his career as a Pacer. Because right now, I mean, you're in a situation where you do not have a center. You're going to wind up having to take on DeAndre Ayton or Al Horford.
That's crazy.
Which is not going to get you a championship. And, you know, at the end of the day, this could result in a domino effect. They could trade Siakam. And the Pacers had probably the worst 10 days an NBA team's ever had to face, because it would have been bad enough if you lost the championship, but I think all three of us probably would have picked them to go back to the finals next year
if they were
with a healthy Halliburton. But Halliburton tearing his Achilles completely threw the franchise's future off course, and now they're lost, and they quite frankly don't know what to do, and we need to see what they got to do because they don't have a center. And now that is a major issue. So we'll see who's going to be active around the trade market. And
how's James Wiseman doing?
He's got waived.
He's a free agent.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he got waived after he tore his Achilles. So.
They're going to have to revisit that Ayton stuff again. I know they had the offer sheet out, but Ayton's not the same player.
For this season, he'll do.
You know,
why not?
Yeah, it's fine because you're not competing without Hallie. That's the thing. And then you can go back next year and try to get a center that's an FA or a trade. I want to love to know how Carlisle's feeling and those players about MT. Like, are they blocking his number right now? Are they texting him? Like,
no, they're not pissed. It's more just the fans that are pissed.
Yeah,
I think if you're Brian Windhorst said if you're a Pacers player, you should be disgusted with the franchise because, you know, based on the situation, Kevin Pritchard should have done what Toronto did. Just pay him the money. I don't care how much it costs. He's been with the franchise for a decade. He was going to get his number in the rafters at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and now I'm not sure if it will. But you got to give these guys the money when they deserve it, and that's been the biggest issue. So that's kind of the deal with the Pacers. As for Milwaukee, I mean, where do we see what's their ceiling next season? Because obviously there's some disagreements and variances regarding us.
I don't know. We have to wait till Giannis. I don't think we can say any ceiling right now because we have to wait for Giannis and see what goes on with that.
Well, let's say Giannis. Let's say Giannis stays.
Yeah.
How far can he take them?
It's second round.
I don't even know. It would not surprise me if we see a fourth consecutive first round exit.
Yeah, honestly, I agree.
It depends who they play.
I see a 6 seed, and then
depends who they play.
Doesn't matter who they play. I feel very confident that the Knicks, the Cavs, even the Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton, if Siakam, Nembhard, and Mathurin are cooking, they're beating the Bucks.
Don't forget about Orlando and Detroit.
I didn't finish. So Orlando, Detroit. I would even trust. Yes, Gio. I would even trust a healthy Philly to beat Milwaukee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And honestly, if they wind up in the play-in, who knows what can happen from there?
The Hornets might beat them.
No, I think Giannis would get them out of the play-in for sure.
I don't know, man.
Giannis would definitely, in a one-off game, he can go off for 50 points and get them out.
You're right.
But they're not getting out of the first round if this roster stays the way it is. So we'll have to see going forward. Who knows what's going to happen with Doc if the team's bad? Not that it's his fault.
Oh,
but
speaking of Philly,
what'd they do?
They just re-signed Eric Gordon.
Oh, okay, fair. That guy's old as hell.
That's crazy.
But yeah, do we have any sort of final thoughts regarding the Milwaukee Bucks or the Indiana Pacers or really anyone?
No, just the MT signing was out of left field 100%. More than Yabusele was.
By far the biggest shocker we've had over the past 24 hours.
I mean, we're waiting for other dominoes. The RFA market is a little stagnant right now.
Most players are going to come back. Like
Yeah.
we'll likely see Giddey go back to the Bulls. We'll see Cam Thomas stay with the Nets.
We're waiting on who else? There's another RFA. Oh, Kuminga.
Kuminga. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
He's the most likely guy to move, and who knows? That I think that's the last thing with the Bucks. The Bucks, if Jonathan Kuminga stays with the Warriors, I think Giannis stays. But if the Warriors really want to pay Kuminga that contract and the Bucks see something in him and Giannis requests a trade, he will be a Golden State Warrior. I think that's the only possibility that can happen at this point.
Bring Dame and Giannis back to Golden State for round 2?
I guess so, yeah. That'll be interesting.
For round 2.
But the Warriors have the assets to give it up. They're in the West, so the Bucks would not mind trading him to the Western Conference.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. So for now, we'll wait it out. And in the next segment, we'll talk about the Denver Nuggets with our guest. This probably wasn't what you were expecting to see for this final segment, but lo and behold, here we are. Long story short, we had tried to record this final segment on Wednesday night with a guest, and it turns out our audio mixer setup has been done incorrectly this entire time, and while we were trying to fix that so we can get our guest's audio to go through the mixer, our entire setup just went completely kaput. There was no audio, it was way too low, wasn't high enough quality to upload to YouTube, so we had to completely scrap it. And tonight's really the only other night we can record something to get this out for you guys on Friday. And unfortunately, Anthony's at the Mets game and Gio's down in Maryland, so it's just down to me. So it's going to be the first time ever we have a one-on-one segment of the Floor Spacer podcast. But don't you worry, guys. On like Sunday or Monday, we're going to try and get everything fixed so we can get back to our normal studio, normal setup, and everything of that nature. But if you see a bunch of shorts that are re-uploaded from months ago, essentially that's the reason why we couldn't record anything, because we were supposed to do the next week's shorts that night. So it is what it is. We apologize for the inconvenience, and we'll get that sorted out. So let's get into the final segment. This is really the main segment of the show because we really wanted to key in on the Nuggets and the Bucks, because they were kind of the most active in free agency. And we just talked about the Bucks, so let's talk about the Denver Nuggets. So obviously when we started this show, they were fresh off the championship and looked primed to repeat once again. And they fizzled out in the second round. They just didn't look locked in, and there needed to be some sort of change. And they lost KCP in the offseason. Christian Brown moved into the starting lineup, and you lost your first round pick to Ron Holmes to a torn Achilles in the summer league. So they were really working with house money this year. And things did not look good. They got off to a rough start early in October. They rebounded a little bit nicely, and then towards the end of the regular season, they really started faltering off. So much so that they fired both Mike Malone, their head coach, and Calvin Booth, their general manager, with less than a week in the season, or less than a week in the season left. Right before the playoffs for a team looking to contend for a championship is a bold move. And David Adelman stepped up to the job. He stepped up to the task, and he did a pretty good job getting this team to the second round and losing to the eventual, NBA champions in the OKC Thunder. They played a really gritty 7-game series against Kawhi and the Clippers. So things looked promising for Denver, at least from the coaching perspective, because David Adelman had the right stuff going in. But this roster still didn't look good. You have a starting 5 making obscene money, and you had no bench pieces. You barely have any tradable picks. So really something needed to happen, and we were curious in specific with the Nuggets of what they would do during free agency, because there were so many different directions they could go in, whether you get off your deadweight contracts like Zeke Naji, Dario Saric, or even perhaps trading one of the young guys like Christian Brown and Peyton Watson, because we all knew that the big tradable contracts that the Nuggets had were Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. And both had very underwhelming seasons for their standards, and both were dealing with injuries. And at the end of the day, they weren't playing their best basketball. So we were curious to see what the Nuggets would do. And lo and behold, during our free agency stream, maybe like an hour in, we were kind of waiting to see what Shams was doing because he was kind of quiet. And he hits us with a bombshell trade that the Denver Nuggets are trading Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected 2032 first-round pick to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson. Now, obviously, y'all know I'm a Nets fan, so being directly involved with this trade is interesting for me in specific because I covered the Denver Nuggets a lot, and a lot of people that I'm friends with are fans of the Denver Nuggets, so I got to do my due diligence to kind of get both sides covered here. But let's talk about the Denver Nuggets side of this deal first, because they're obviously the team we're talking about in this segment. Michael Porter was making like $38 million a year, just an obscene amount of money for a guy that wasn't delivering in the playoffs. And in this system, he needs to hit his shots because this team has no 3-point shooting. Like, Jokic had an anomaly 47% season from three or something along those lines. Jamal Murray's a decent 3-point shooter. Aaron Gordon was on fire for the playoffs' sake. But really, outside of that, Christian Brown, yes, he's improved, but he's not a great shooter. The bench is a nightmare. We know that Peyton Watson struggles to shoot. We know that Russell Westbrook struggles to shoot. We know that Julian Strother's streaky on and off. And Michael Porter needed to be the guy to step up and hit his shots. And when it mattered most in the past three final series they played in, he didn't shoot well in the NBA Finals. He didn't shoot well in the Timberwolves series last year. And he didn't shoot well against OKC this year. He really didn't play well against the Clippers, albeit he was injured. But if you're on the floor in the playoffs, you got to be doing your job. There's only so much grace we can give someone with the salary you're making. You're making $38 million a year. It's kind of ridiculous. But Michael Porter was just clogging up their cap, and I think that was really the main issue with the Nuggets here, because they have no flexibility. This new CBA is financially straining teams. We just saw the Celtics pretty much blow it up by separating their championship core, and now the Nuggets are essentially the next team to do this. So that's why they didn't pay KCP. That's why they didn't pay Bruce Brown or Jeff Green after winning the championship. So getting off Michael Porter Jr. makes a lot of sense because Cam Johnson offers a lot more as a basketball player than Michael Porter Jr. Because we all know he's 6'10", he's got a lot of size, not the greatest defender. Cam Johnson is a much better defender than Michael Porter Jr., and that was one of the big foundations that he kind of picked up in college at UNC as well as in Phoenix, because that Phoenix team was really good defensively. That was when Mikal Bridges looked great, Cam Johnson looked great, DeAndre Ayton was actually anchoring one of the best defenses in the NBA at the time before everything else wound up falling apart seasons after. But with Cam Johnson, his movement shooting, especially in the corner, his ability to hit the 28 and 30 footers, I mean, it was a joy to watch all season in Brooklyn. It was great. And I think just kind of running off like this, like the high screen and rolls and the pick and pops, I think is where he's really going to thrive. And look, at the end of the day, Jokic gets you open looks. Jamal Murray gets you open looks. And Michael Porter, the shots that he wasn't hitting, I'm very confident Cam Johnson's going to be able to hit those shots when it matters most, because I think that's just who he is in his DNA. And it's really no slight on Michael Porter Jr. I think it's just because he makes too much money they had to get off of him. And we'll talk about why in a little bit. But just real quick, I want to talk about Brooklyn's side of this trade, because we're not sure really what we want to do. We literally just drafted like 4 point guards in the first round. And look, I really wanted us to draft Michael Porter in 2018. So I'm very happy we have him on the roster. I really hope he doesn't get flipped before Sunday when the trade becomes official. And I'm really looking forward to this. If we wind up retaining Cam Thomas, I think having both of them have that green light in a season that really we don't have expectations in, it's good to have all these playmakers around. That's why I think Yegor Demon's really going to slot right in this lineup with what? You got Cam Thomas, you got Yegor Demon, Michael Porter Jr., and then really any combination of the bigs, whether it's Clowney and Claxton, or it's Claxton and Sharp if you want to run the double big lineup, or really you could do whatever the hell you want, and it's going to work out. And if you're a Nuggets fan, I don't really think you should worry too much about Michael Porter Jr. You've seen what the guy did in high school. And if he's got that kind of role on a tanking team or a non-playoff team, I'm really excited to see, the 30 and 40 point games that he's going to put up with us. And I think he could be a really early candidate for most improved player. This reminds me of Larry Markkinen to Utah. Was not good whatsoever in Chicago and Cleveland. He gets the shot in Utah, having the team to himself, getting the green light, getting an advanced role, and you saw what he was able to do. He averaged like 26 a game. He was an all-star for the first time in his career in his home arena and won Most Improved Player. I think it was 2023. I don't remember the exact year, but I want to say it was 2023. But I really like this trade for Denver. You had to give up the extra first-round pick because Cam Johnson makes significantly less. I think Michael Porter was due to make $39 million in 2026. Cam Johnson's got 2 years left on his contract at like $22 and $23 million. So a big downgrade in at least the cap. And the Nets were able to do this without taking in more salary because they're under the apron. Denver, I believe, was a second apron team at the time. And, essentially he was a salary dump, but you are getting a better player in return, at least better for the role. Because while Cam Johnson isn't as available as MPJ, when he's playing, he's always going to give his all and he's always going to put up great numbers. And if you get a 40% from 3 season from Cam Johnson, I think the Nuggets could easily win a championship or at least be there in contention with the OKCs of the world and Houston and whoever manages to kind of get themselves into a deep playoff run in the Western Conference. So It was a really simple trade. I honestly thought it was going to be a lot more complicated, but this now brings the Kevin Durant trade tree up to 10 first-round picks for my Brooklyn Nets, which is kind of crazy considering that we got 4 picks and 4 swaps for him. Then we got the 5 first-round picks and the 1 swap for Mikal Bridges, and now we just got 1 unprotected first-round pick in 2032 in the Cam Johnson trade. And look, I don't think this is the end. If Michael Porter eventually gets traded down the line, he is 1,000% getting another first-round pick in return for him. So this could wind up being a humongous trade tree in the Kevin Durant end of Brooklyn era. And, I think in retrospect to that pick, I think it could be valuable because who knows where the Nuggets are at by that point. Jokic could be retired by then. He'll be, 37? He'll be close to the end of his career, that's for sure. So that pick could hold value to it. We'll have to see what the Nuggets do. But shout out Michael Porter Jr. I'm looking forward to this. And Cam Johnson, thank you for everything you've done for us in Brooklyn. I know it was a rough first year, but your second year, man, you rebounded like crazy. I stuck with you the whole time. I've defended your ass the whole time. And I'm looking forward to the great things you're going to do next to Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. I think he's going to fit right in like a glove. And I think Jokic is going to absolutely love him. And I just wish him all the best, and I can't wait to cover him. It's going to be great. But let's sort of transition here. Actually, I guess the last thing I'll do, I'll grade the trade for both sides. I give Denver an A because the only reason why it's not an A+ is because you had to give up the first. But you're not really going to need the first for now. We'll worry about that down the line. But you managed to lower your cap sheet. You managed to get a player that can defend better than Michael Porter. And he's got an additional year. So it's not like you traded for a guy and an expiring and you have to pay him next offseason. You don't. You'll just have to worry about that in 2027, or it really just depends on how well he plays. And for the Nets, this is also like an A-, I'd guess, because Porter does make a lot of money, but I think he's a great player to take a flyer on. And I'm really, really excited to see what we do with Michael Porter Jr. at the Barclays Center. I'm stoked. I'm really excited. And let us know down in the comments what y'all are feeling about this trade, because this really caught us all by surprise. We didn't really expect it to happen. And lo and behold, here it is. But let's transition, because about a couple hours later, we got another report from Shams Charania. We're going to put the tweet on the screen that Bruce Brown Jr., Nets legend Bruce Brown Jr., has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Denver Nuggets. So Bruce Brown back in Denver. We all know how great he played in the championship run in 2023. And just super stoked to see him back in a place where he was wanted, where he loved, and really everything like that. So with Bruce specifically, obviously, you got to chase the bag when you win a championship. There's I'm not going to judge you at all. He played out of his freaking mind. He had been on cheap MLE deals, he earned this bag. Went to the Indiana Pacers for a 2-year, $46 million contract, I think, or something along those lines. And I thought he was going to be a vital piece on that roster. I mean, they went to the in-season tournament final, but afterwards he was traded to Toronto in the Pascal Siakam trade, and then was subsequently traded to New Orleans in the Brandon Ingram trade. So it didn't last too long in Toronto, only about a year, but now he's back where I think he's back where he belongs. And I think for Bruce specifically, I think he really learned the cons of getting the bag, because a lot of these good teams don't have cap space, and the most Denver could have offered him was about $7 million per year. So Indy's offer is something you can't say no to. But for Bruce specifically, I think going to teams that were bad, I mean, Toronto bottomed out. They traded Siakam and had previously traded OG Anunoby, and you got traded to New Orleans, who you literally just traded him for their star player in Brandon Ingram. Zion was who knows where, and the team's constantly injured. So have Bruce allowing himself to choose his next destination, I knew instinctively that it was going to be Denver, because it was a place where he was comfortable. It was a place where I knew he wouldn't get a big contract from, and it's a place where I think he thrives the best. Denver and Brooklyn have been his two greatest chapters in his career, and I think now we're really going to see the old Bruce Brown, the 2021 to 2023 Bruce Brown, come back to us. And I'm super excited for it, because his energy off the bench is very similar. It's like he's not a better player than Russell Westbrook. The energy levels are both there. They both bring it to like the Energizer Bunny. They're always going to show up on a night-to-night basis. But here's where Bruce Brown thrives, where Russ can't. One, Bruce Brown is a much better shooter than Russell Westbrook. I mean, there were times where, yes, Russ was hitting his shots, but there were times when he would not even come near the rim. It would just, it would either come short or it'll just soar right over, and it would basically just be a pass to the other team, and they would go down and get a free 2 or 3 points. Bruce Brown shoots the ball a lot better. He's much improved. He kind of had that Lou Dort era of improving his three-point shot as he progressed through his career. And, obviously, he's not as good of a playmaker as Russell Westbrook was, but my God, he is a much better defender than Russell Westbrook is. And I think that was really the main benefactor of the championship run, when he picked KD's pocket in Game 1 of the Sun series at least twice or 3 times in that series in the second round. So with Bruce, it's essentially business as usual. I'm really excited to see what he does with this new Nuggets team now that they have Cam Johnson, and now that they have the young guys playing a lot more minutes. We obviously will get to Ron Holmes minutes this season as he recovers from his injury. So exciting times away. And I think Deron Holmes, they had announced, is playing in the Summer League this year. And this is crazy in the sense that I really want to ask Anthony and Gio their thoughts, and I can't. It's so strange to me. But maybe we can get their quick thoughts in next week's episode. But for Bruce Brown coming back to Denver, this is an A-plus signing. I think he's on a vet minimum, which, again, that's the big part of the MPJ trade. If he was still on the roster, I think they could barely afford that contract. So lowering the cap sheet, they saved like $17 million. Bruce Brown's able to come on for the vet minimum, and him taking the vet minimum is essentially what did it. So shout out Bruce. It's good to have you back, my guy. And let's get into the next deal. So nothing else happened the rest of that night, but the next morning we got another bombshell tweet from Shams Charania that the Sacramento Kings are trading Jonas Valanciunas to the Denver Nuggets for Dario Saric. Now, this trade, there's a lot to unpack with it, purely for the sense that Dario Saric maybe had one of the worst seasons in NBA history last year, was a total net negative on the floor, to the point where he just wasn't playing and was just collecting a $10 million salary for like 4 or 5 months. It was quite embarrassing, and all the Nuggets fans that I know were just so irked beyond belief at really just how bad he was playing. And I mean, everyone saw it. It was disastrous, and that's like an understatement. So, allowing yourself to trade him for a 7-footer that actually can shoot the three and someone that can defend is huge. And what sucks is that I really wanted to kind of dive into this trade specifically for how good Jonas Valanciunas could be for the Denver Nuggets. And literally about 2 hours before I start filming, we get a report from Legion Hoops saying, whoa, Jonas Valanciunas is heavily considering leaving the NBA to join Panathinaikos, a team in Greece, which is very unfortunate because they're not rescinding the trade. And I honestly don't know why Val wants to leave. Like, you have this is probably your best shot at a championship, playing behind Nikola freaking Jokic, and you want to quit? To me, that seems a little bit odd. And the only thing I could deduce from this is that either he wants a starting role, which he's definitely not getting on this team, or I guess he's maybe a temporary piece where in the sense of he makes like, I think, $10 or $11 million, somewhere around that range of like the MLE. And if there's a more impactful player on another team that's up for trade, maybe the Nuggets were going to trade him in February at the deadline, and I guess he just wants no part of that, because I imagine he goes to Europe, plays for Panathinaikos, he'd probably be their best player, he'd probably be going for MVP and everything like that. So I understand it from those perspectives if those turn out to be true, but at this current moment in time, it just seems stupid. Like, why would you do this? This is your best chance you've had at a championship in literal years. So to each their own, I suppose. He's from Europe, so I guess he wants to be closer to home, in an atmosphere that's more comfortable for him. He's had a very rough past few years in the NBA, so we gotta wish him the best, whatever he does. As far as grading this trade, I don't know. It's really just a salary dump for a salary dump. Both players are probably going to wind up leaving the NBA anyways, so I'm not going to grade it until something is final. So let's get into the final acquisition for the Denver Nuggets. And this one kind of came out of left field, too. This happened, I think, on Wednesday. It was either on Tuesday or Wednesday as well. That Tim Hardaway Jr. has signed a 1-year deal with the Denver Nuggets, which is crazy because I think he also signed for the vet minimum. And I had seen somewhere saying that, if you guys remember, Aaron Gordon extended last September, right before the season started. And he could have waited and signed for an extension right now for even more money. But saving that like $9 or $10 million allowed the Nuggets to bring in Hardaway, to trade for Jonas Valanciunas, and to sign Bruce Brown. So, Aaron Gordon is a Nuggets legend at this point, has done so much for this franchise. But the craziest thing is how they were able to just nab Tim Hardaway like this. Like, if y'all remember, he was balling in Detroit. I mean, Detroit was surging all season. I was expecting him to get a fresh payday, and it doesn't look like he got one, which is kind of crazy to me. But, we saw how well Tim Hardaway played in Detroit. I mean, that Pistons team was so god-awful in 2024, and he helped turn them around big time. The game they lost, I think, in Game 6 it was against the Knicks. I think he was like their only player playing well, or that maybe it was Game 5. I don't remember. But Tim Hardaway was someone that was rising in the playoffs this past season. And the biggest issue that I had with Denver last season, aside from the defense, was the lack of three-point shooting. You have great shooters on paper, but none of them were delivering. You got nothing from MPJ. You got nothing from Peyton Watson. You got You got one good game from Julian Strawther, and Russell Westbrook is hit or miss. That's why they call him the mystery box in Mario Kart. And I think getting guys that are dedicated to shooting, Cam Johnson, Tim Hardaway Jr., I think those are, you don't need more than that. Because in the playoffs, unless you're crazy depth like Minnesota or OKC or Indiana, you're not going to dip past the eighth man. So we'll put on the screen actually right now the Nuggets depth chart, which y'all can sort of see. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit. So there we go. So I don't know why it doesn't list any point guards under Jamal Murray, but presumably Jalen Pickett would slot in as the backup. But starting lineup, Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. That is already like a top 3 starting lineup in the NBA. I really don't know if there are better lineups than that. Obviously you could think of the OKC roster. That's probably one, but the starting lineup's really good. Obviously you have the best player in the freaking world in Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray, he rises in the playoffs, and the two-man game is insane. A great perimeter defender in Christian Brown, 3-and-D wing, and just an absolute freaking beast in Aaron Gordon, who has much improved his three-point shooting. And then off the bench, you obviously have Jalen Pickett. You have Bruce Brown would slot in here. Tim Hardaway Jr. would slot in the backup shooting guard. You still have Julian Strawther. You still have Peyton Watson. And then whether it's Jonas Valanciunas or whoever, Denver, I believe, will have a backup center at some point. There are still options out there on the free agency market. Obviously, DeAndre Ayton had just signed with the Lakers, which I think we'll talk about next week, more in depth if applicable. But you still have Al Horford out there, and we see what he's been able to do in the playoffs. He is a champion, and he'll bring so much value to this Nuggets team, really just in all facets of the game. And you still have De'Ron Holmes. I think that's the biggest mystery in this entire roster, is what are you going to get from this guy? He could either come in and give you nothing, like a Dario Saric, or we all remember Christian Brown's rookie year. He just came in and started hooping. He fit his role. He fit the hole in the team that they needed him to fill, and he was incredible in the playoffs, specifically in the NBA Finals. And that was something that a lot of guys can't do. So this depth chart looks quite insane, to say the least. It's not even the completed depth chart, but the Denver Nuggets look incredible, and I'm really excited to see what they're able to do moving forward with this roster and with David Adelman, because they just brought in JJ Barea and Jared Dudley as their assistant coaches, and both are NBA champions, both have won at the highest level, both have insane basketball IQs, and I think it's only going to make David Adelman better, because we saw what he was able to do, taking that OKC team to 7 games, having maybe been a head coach for like 2 or 3 games when Michael Malone was out or suspended. That's incredible. It's truly incredible. And look, the Nuggets got a bright future, man. I would grade the Hardaway addition like an A. There's really not much there's nothing else you could really give it. They need shooting. They're doing what OKC did last season. They struggled perimeter defense. You bring in Alex Caruso. You get absolutely destroyed on the offensive glass by the Dallas Mavericks and all their towers that they have. What do? You offer the bag and throw it to Isaiah Hartenstein. That is what championship moves are like. And this new Nuggets front office staff, I think it's like Ben Tenzer and John Wallace, I want to say are their names, along with Josh Kroenke, because they have to report all their moves to Kroenke. The 3 of them are doing an outstanding job so far. And to me, it's just the beginning for them. And we all like to talk about how wide open the Eastern Conference is. I'd like to make the same argument that the West is as well, because while OKC remains the team to beat and remains to be the threat, history shows us, at least in this era of the league, there's intense parity. And it likely means that OKC's probably losing in the second round again next season. So if they're hypothetically out of it, Houston's up there. We all know Minnesota struggles deep into the playoffs. The Lakers haven't signed anyone outside of DeAndre Ayton, and LeBron might even get traded. I think the West is also pretty wide open. And right now, if I were to pick who would make it out of the West, I would lean towards the Denver Nuggets. I think they're the team to beat at this current moment in time, not named the OKC Thunder for obvious reasons. But I really like the trend that we're headed in with this team. And I think there's more moves they can make. Zeke Naji still makes $8 million a year, and he's on his last year of the contract. So who knows what you can do with him? And if Valanciunas winds up staying, you could easily trade him as to bring in someone, and the other team can just cut him and let him go to Europe and play in Greece and whatnot. And I think the only last thing we have to really worry about with this team is how much are they paying Christian Brown, because I'm of the essence that Watson's not going to get paid nearly as much because he hasn't really played much in the playoffs, hasn't been that big of an impact. But Christian Brown is going to make a pretty penny, man. It would not surprise me one bit if he signs 4 years for $90 million. And, it would be deserved, but we'll see what happens regarding the Denver Nuggets and Christian Brown and all of that. But as of right now, they have been one of the biggest, if not the biggest winner this offseason. You have to put them up there with the Houston Rockets for acquiring Kevin Durant and then stealing Dorian Finney-Smith from the Lakers. You have to include the Atlanta Hawks for, bringing in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, for bringing in Luke Kennard. And Atlanta looks real good to even win the East as wide open as it is. And I really think you could also count the Magic, I guess, for trading for Desmond Bane and bringing in Tyus Jones as a backup point guard, I guess. But right now, Nuggets, Hawks, Rockets are the three overwhelming winners. And if you want to include draft picks, obviously the San Antonio Spurs, bringing in obviously De'Aaron Fox at the trade deadline, but you draft Dylan Harper at 2, and you get and you just, your roster's insane. I forgot the guy's name at 13. I want to say it was Cedric Coward, but I could be wrong. And look, man, it's going to be a great NBA season. There's still free agents up for grabs. We still don't know what's happening with Al Horford. We still don't know what's happening with Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul. It's crazy. So let us know down in the comments what you guys would grade the Denver Nuggets free agency so far and where they can go from here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of episode number 64 of the Floor Spacer podcast. Now, I had asked Gio for a word because for y'all that are new, at the end of each episode, Gio gives you guys a word to comment. So that way you're still with the flow. We know who the real OG listeners are, the real ones, and the word he told me to comment was ocean, because I imagine he's somewhere at the beach in Maryland. So comment ocean, OCEAN, and I believe he already did his G of the week in the intro. If you want to be a G of the week, you got to be active in our streams. We're streaming. We typically like to stream once a week, but we got some scheduling conflicts in the summer, so it's a little bit more inconsistent. But we'll get back onto that. And, obviously, free agency, the offseason, everything's still kind of ramping up. So we'll give you all some summer league stuff when the time comes, and we'll just kind of keep tabs on the league, really. That's just what we do. And we have some good ideas for episodes coming up as we sort of get prepped for the preseason and we do our power rankings and all that good stuff. And then, in the blink of an eye, guys, the 2025-26 season is going to start. So we hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're new around here, get us to 7,000 subscribers. Our goal is to get there by the beginning of September. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you go do that. If you're on Spotify audio platforms, give us 5 stars, answer the polls, leave a review, and all that good stuff. Follow our socials, which are actually on the overlay right here. So at Floor Spacer Pod on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And then we're not on Apple Podcasts yet. We're working on it, but the Floor Spacer Podcast on Spotify. My personal socials are right here. T Schwartz on Twitter and TDJS1209 on Instagram. Gio and Anthony's are linked below. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything we got out of the way as far as I know. So, yeah, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the video. We hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. We love you all endlessly. I do not like Nico Harrison, but Gio, for some weird, odd reason, does. And we'll see you all next week in episode 65. Peace out.